Good afternoon. Welcome to the Transfer Liaison Tips webinar. We're excited that you were able to join us today. I have two things I'd like to ask you to do to begin with. If all the participants, if you could all raise your hand, there's a feature on the GoToWebinar that allow you to raise your hand. If you could do that now, I'd appreciate it. Great. And also, during this broadcast, we'll have a question panel as a place to ask questions throughout the broadcast, and we'll have time at the end to answer your questions. So to get started, we created this webinar to provide assistance and support to the transfer liaisons and those working with them on the Michigan Transfer Pathways project. There's a lot of work and communication associated with the project. We realize that, so we want to help support you and provide you with resources. And we hope this webinar provides you with that. So I'm going to get started with introductions. This is brought to you by the Macro College Articulation Committee, as well as Erica Oriens from the Michigan Community College Association. I'm Colleen Kibben. I'm the Director of Community College Relations at Eastern Michigan University. I've been associated with the Macro College Articulation Committee for the last few years. I've been a representative on the State Transfer Steering Committee, as well as a program facilitator for criminal justice in the Phase 1 pathway, and a facilitator for the transfer liaisons in the Phase 2 pathway. So Matt Zeig, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I hope everyone's doing well, and we're recovering from hopefully a very enjoyable Thanksgiving weekend. I think I'm still full from all the turkey I ate. My name is Matt Zeig, Transfer Articulation Coordinator at Oakland University. I am the new chair for the College Articulation Committee. I'm taking over for Colleen, so I have very big shoes to fill in that regard. And we are very excited to put this on. As far as pathways go, I've been involved from the beginning. Phase 1, me and Erica were leading the conversation with the business faculty. And then for Phase 2, Erica and I also teamed up with computer science, as well as computer information systems, since that one was kind of a double. So while I am the transfer liaison for OU, I unfortunately have not made it to any of the liaison meetings. I've always heard about all the great conversation everyone's had, and hopefully the next one I'll be able to sneak in there. I didn't tell Erica that yet, but I might sneak over to kind of have some conversation since I've been missing out on that. But otherwise, a lot of good information going on, a lot of great conversation. It's been a very enjoyable experience so far.
Great. And Erica?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Erica Oriens. I work for the Michigan Community College Association, and the MCCA is the fiscal agent for the project that we're working on to build these transfer pathways, and that all of you have been working on for the last several months. I want to thank Macro for their putting this webinar together and for all their help in making this project successful. I can tell you that it's a real great opportunity in Michigan for us to improve outcomes for transfer students. I can also tell you that the eyes of the nation are on us. I have received several messages from my colleagues across the country who are very interested in watching what we're doing here in Michigan. So thank you for your support of this, and thanks to the committee for putting this on. Colleen?
Great. So let's get started. Matt's going to go over what the role of the transfer liaison is in the Pathways project, so I'm going to turn it over to Matt once my slide goes forward. Not sure what's going on here. There we go.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right. So I'll kind of just give a little bit of an overview. Those of you who might be a little bit new to this, hopefully this will be great information. Those who have already been involved, hopefully just kind of rehash and just getting a better understanding of what we are doing. So let's first talk about just the phases. So we got Phase 1, we have Phase 2, and we have Phase 3. So we were granted funds to do 12 different programs. We're trying to pick the top ones that not only students transfer with, but also that are kind of like the hot jobs When looking at a list of the top jobs, top transfers, you'll start to see some overlap with a great example is business. You know, business is a general view of all the business areas like accounting, finance, economics, things like that. So you don't see it all broken down between that because we're looking at kind of like the business core. So that's kind of where we start to gather some of the different, or this is how the steering committee chose the different subject matters to go over. So phase one, we have biology, business, criminal justice, and psychology. Like Colleen said, she helps facilitate criminal justice. I was there for business. I know there's some other folks on here who help facilitate biology and psychology as well. And I know we're really in the thick of things right now. Since phase one has already had the second meeting, right now we're really trying to hammer down what those equivalencies are. I saw Katie Giardel's on here. I know I've been bugging her a lot lately, sending her a lot of new equivalencies that we've been getting over at OU. And really that's what we should be doing phase one. So for the transfer liaison piece of it, it's working with the faculty right now and really trying to find out where are there missing sections of equivalencies and trying to get those up to date, uploaded onto the Michigan Transfer Network, and then kind of passing that on to Katie and her team so they can kind of update our sheets. I know recently, for those of you who are on the email, Katie did send a follow-up for phase one for the transfer liaisons, really emphasizing working on those course equivalencies as well as going through those new program worksheets. What I've found, and I'm sure I'll talk about more of this towards the second part of this presentation, is we really got to stay on the faculty. And it's not so much that they don't want to do the work, it's they got so many other things going on. And while our title is transfer liaison, I was thinking about it earlier today, we're actually more like project managers. You know, because we have all of these different subjects we have to manage. And right now with phase two starting, we're on to 8 subjects. By the end of April, we're going to be on 12. I mean, I know we'll be finishing up phase one, but we'll be in the thick of things for phase two with that second meeting coming up, as well as phase three prepping for what those meetings are going to be. So we have those 3 phases. Some of the key things that, you know, as liaisons we need to do is really facilitate that communication. There's a lot of moving pieces here, and it's not so much the moving pieces just between you and the faculty, but it's also between other people in your offices who might have a handle on transfer, and it's keeping everyone else up to date. I'm constantly in meetings with different academic advisors as well as admission reps, kind of telling them this is what's going on with pathways, this is how I foresee things working at OU. And so everyone stays up to date on, okay, this is what's kind of coming down the pipe. So hopefully when that agreement happens, that signing happens in May, it's not like, okay, now let me tell everyone everything. It's a matter of, hey, everyone, everything I've been telling you for the past year and a half, now we're good to go. Here's a few updates, and we can kind of move on from there. So, and that covers institutional stakeholders, you know, sharing the available data on transfer efforts in Michigan. Kind of like Erica just mentioned, other people are watching us and seeing what we do, and I think this is a great thing that we're really all getting together, but communication is the big piece, and it's a matter of really making sure we get those equivalencies to Canvas. I know right now I just sent off an email to one of our business computer information faculty members, and I could only send her 14 syllabi from the community colleges because only 14 had posted it. So that's where we need to, again, stick with our faculty, make sure they're posting things to Canvas, or if it's too much for them, then as a liaison, trying to grab the syllabus from them and then posting it on there. I think one of the nice things with this project and having our own liaison meeting has been the ability to meet other folks. I know I haven't been there to meet everyone, so hopefully I'll meet everyone sooner or later. But because I've been on the committee, I at least know a lot of the liaisons, and I've been feeling very comfortable contacting different people. Like I know Matt Novakowski, who's going to speak later on, where if I have to quickly email him a syllabus, he can find it for me, and we can make sure we have the right equivalency. So, and then also, this is a key one, and I semi-screwed up on this one with one of my faculty members, but prepare faculty for the Pathways Summit. I was paying attention to the faculty signed up for phase 2, and I noticed the person was missing, And I didn't think too much of it, like, oh, let me double check on him because that's what I should do. I was like, no, he's getting the emails and whatnot, and he should be fine. And no, he wasn't. He had said he committed to the project internally at OU, but never then officially did it with the Pathways project. So again, check if your faculty are signed up. They're signed up early, making sure the right faculty are going, and then keeping them up to date on what they are supposed to be doing. We can probably go to the next slide if you want, Colleen.
Just taking a second.
No worries. With this dead air time, I don't know if I really want to sing. It's not my forte. If anyone else who wants to sing, they can do that. Could do a nice rendition of Jingle Bells. I know that's already been playing in my house for the past month. So.
My computer is like a senior citizen or something. It's just taking its time. There we go.
There we go, milestones. So I already kind of started talking about the milestones. Well, again, we'll go kind of over them again, the exact dates and everything. So we did have that May 18th, that first meeting, which was really great because for those of you who may not have been able to attend, a full day of activities. It was great because we did have, a speaker come in and kind of show the work that we are doing and how it is going to impact everyone, which was really great for some of the faculty to see why we're doing it, how it's going to impact, data-driven. That's always a big thing. I know with anything you do, you've got to have that data to back it up that this is worthwhile. And then, going over the right math at the right time. And then, honestly, experimenting with how we were going to figure out how all these courses worked. And like anything, there were some great points to the process we had created with the large Post-it notes with the courses and everything. And then there were some things that we worked to improve on and had different suggestions on what to do for the next phases for the meeting. So with that May 18th over the summer, it was a good time for the liaisons to work with faculty to hopefully get equivalencies. I know the summer can sometimes be difficult because some faculty are on campus and will respond all the time. And then there's others who are like, nope, it's the summer. I will see you in August, September. So I know that can be a challenge. So it'll be interesting to, when we hear from some of the other folks that are going to talk about their experience, to see if that was an issue over the summer or if maybe summer was better for them. Then we just had our second meeting this past October to really hammer down what we are looking at. I know from a business perspective, it was great because we could dive right into some things and talk about some of those parking lot issues where we discovered something in that first meeting, didn't have enough time to talk about it, could think about it more, and then bring it up at the the second meeting for phase one. And then quickly after that, we had our phase two first meeting, where we were able to go over communication, social work, mechanical engineering, as well as computer science / computer information systems, along with liaisons being there. So from what I've heard from my faculty, a lot of great discussion occurred in all of those meetings. Each one had something that they need to look on, which is great because now we have, the next 5-6 months to start working on some of those issues. And that's where, as liaisons, we can get together and, start talking more and more with each other on what are the issues our faculty are finding versus I'm going to internally look at, some of those parking lot issues, try to solve them on my end, which is great, but is that solution even going to work for everyone else? So we have the next 5 or 6 months to do that before our second meeting for phase two. So it'll be great to start working on those things. And then lastly, immediately after, the next day, we will have, our phase three first meeting where we can then go over art, exercise science, public health, and English. And again, these are ones that the steering committee picked. They seem to be the best ones, the most applicable ones. Again, as we get down to these subject matters, not every school is going to have them. So as a liaison, if people start to wonder why did they pick art or public health, OU doesn't have a public health program, so obviously OU won't participate in that one, but other schools who do have public health will be able to participate. It just came down to numbers. So we tried picking the ones that most transferable, job market out there, and also try to get a variety in there as well. I know at the steering committee meeting why we're kind of throwing in art and English and some of those humanities to you know, help out with some of our independent colleges where humanities is a main focus. So we want to kind of make sure they're getting you know, a fair share in this program. So, and then lastly, hopefully we have that anticipated articulation agreement signing May 9th. You know, so that May week is going to be very busy. So no one's allowed to go on any vacations apparently during that week of May. We're going to be all busy with pathway stuff for that. And regards to the articulation agreement, Erica has been putting together a team to start kind of formalizing what that language is going to be. I know we have some meetings coming up here. Myself, Colleen, are on those committees. I know me and Colleen have had experience working with articulation agreements and some of that legal language. And the big thing is figuring out how, in the end, does this all work? And as we start to formulate that plan, we will continually pass that along to the liaisons kind of to disseminate that information. So I think that covers my 2 slides, Colleen, unless you have anything else you think I need to add.
No, that's perfect. Thanks again. My slide deck is taking its time to go forward, so I'll just get started on our next section, which is our best practices for liaisons. And we have 5 liaisons from both community college sector and the university sector joining us today to share their tips. And as we ask the questions, I'll have them introduce themselves and what they do at their institution. But these liaisons will be talking about in a few different areas. One is who's on their project team, how they communicate with that project team, how they've managed to keep the project organized, the systems that they've used to complete all the tasks that we've requested from them, and then also any obstacles that they've encountered, as well as advice for other liaisons. So eventually, I'm sure my slide deck will work, but until then, I'll get started on the questions. My first question is going to be for Emily Clement. Emily, can you tell us what is your role at your institution? Who do you include in your project team? And how do you communicate with the project team?
Sure. My role at Delta College is the manager of strategic partnerships. In that role, I work with all of the articulation and transfer initiatives for both post-secondary, secondary, and business and industry initiatives. In mine, I've been involved in all 3, well, I will be involved in all 3 transfer pathways. So I've been in phase 1, phase 2, and I also serve on the statewide committee for the MiTransfer pathways, as well as serving on the college articulation committee for macro. My project team, I include all of the lead faculty for those disciplines. So it's the lead, you know, the business lead coordinator. And then we have a couple chairs who have also sat in on some of the meetings just out of interest or to fill in for their faculty coordinators. And those are really the only people that are involved. But I do have to keep the president, the vice presidents, and the deans informed. So I give them an email update of everything that's happening so they know that we are staying up to date, because that's something that they really want to know, that we are participating, that we're, you know, I'm not having any issues or anything like that. So I also keep those people involved and informed.
Great, thank you. Next, we're going to ask Evan Finley from Eastern Michigan. Evan, same question as Emily had. Could you please tell us about your role at your institution and who you include in the project team, as well as how you communicate with that project team?
Great. Hi, everybody. Like Colin said, my name is Evan Finley. I manage all of our curriculum development and academic catalogs here at Eastern, as well as various other student success initiatives. So sort of new to the transfer world, which has been really interesting to be a part of. So who I include on my sort of project team would be Colleen from our Community College Relations Office, our Transfer Equivalency Coordinator, who's responsible for updating our in-house systems regarding transfer equivalencies. And then each of the department heads from all the disciplines that are engaged in this work. And then mostly communicating via email, which seems to be working for us.
Great. Well, thank you, Evan. And then Matt Novakoski, could you please comment on your role, your project team, and how you communicate with your project team? Matt, are you there? Matt Novakoski? All right, seems like Matt might be having a problem with his audio. We'll move on to Kevin Chandler. Kevin, are you there from Macomb?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Kevin, can you please let us know what your role is at your institution, who you include in your project team, and how you communicate with them?
Yeah, absolutely. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kevin Chandler. I'm the Dean of University Relations here at Macomb Community College. So basically, I oversee our university center, our 12 partners, and then transfer and articulation. The team obviously consists of the faculty members involved for each phase, as well as departments when I have the opportunity to share with them. Also, our executive team as it relates to our faculty union, our provost, our president, and then our learning council when I have the opportunity to present to them as well. But for the most part, the concrete core of the group is myself, my administrative team, and then our faculty who are involved in the phase 1, 2, and 3 project. To facilitate, it's really a lot of one-on-ones or group meetings, as well as phone calls and emails. And then we try to find a time to debrief either at the phase meeting or when we get back to the campus when we have the opportunity to do so. So that's really basically our main communication streams.
Great, thanks, Kevin, appreciate it. And Matt, see, some of those things might have been covered for you. I know you've introduced yourself, but do you have anything to add as far as your project team and how you communicate with your project team?
Usually the nice thing is our interim associate provost kind of initiates the project for us. So it kind of comes from a higher level. So it's not just like, hey, this transfer articulation coordinator is asking me to participate in something. It's like, no, this is a higher priority. And usually what we'll try to do is organize a meeting then with the interim associate provost, myself, and then the 4 faculty members, where I can then present an overview of the project. Then the 4 faculty members can kind of discuss their thoughts, their concerns. I have, the associate provost there to, talk about any thoughts or concerns with them as well. And that's pretty much how, once we have that initial meeting, then it's pretty much on me. A lot of the communication has been happening through email. I'll routinely check back once in a while if I haven't heard from someone in a couple months to see what's going on, if they have any questions or issues. Sometimes then it sparks a conversation like, oh, I haven't looked at this in a while, let me get going with it. Or like, nope, I'm good to go. But yeah, that's kind of how we've been running things with phase 1 and phase 2, and probably how we'll do things with phase 3 as well.
Great, thanks, Matt. So the next question that I'm going to ask to all the liaisons is, what system do you use to organize the Pathways project? Emily, can you comment on that?
Sure. We've been using basically just regular PC technology and email to organize our project. I've had meetings with the faculty, and so then we use a smart room, and I go into the MiTransfer Pathways web page and just kind of go through the different things and show the videos and some of that as far as organizing and communicating with them.
Great, thanks. And Evan, how do you organize the project?
Thanks, Colleen. So our university is a Google Suite university. So I've created Google Team drives for each phase, and then within each of those drives are specific folders for each discipline. And within those folders are copies of the worksheets that they're working on, and then a Google spreadsheet of all existing course equivalencies to kind of keep track of those. And then also links to various other information that that are helpful to this project for each of our disciplines.
Great. And Matt N., are you here with us yet?
Colleen, I just tried calling in. Can you hear me all right now?
Oh, yep, we sure can, Matt. Matt, did you want to introduce yourself? And we're talking about what systems you use to organize the Pathway project.
Absolutely. Thanks very much. And sorry about that glitch, but As Colleen said, I'm Matt Novakowski, the Transfer and Articulation Coordinator at Grand Rapids Community College. And the system's primarily used, certainly our email system is the primary means of communication. And also as the transfer liaison, I've simply maintained folders of documents, of the worksheets, of the equivalency documents on my computer's drive, then disseminate them via email to the participants. But I think certainly like some good ideas have already been mentioned, and I think certainly looking at something like a shared drive would be in order for the upcoming phases, phase 2 and phase 3, and even for the remainder of phase 1. And indeed, the website is a crucial source as well, with a lot of good information. So like Emily mentioned, of when meeting with the phase participants, to kind of look at the videos and look at where like the worksheets, the populated worksheets might be housed on the site, and where the equivalencies are, so folks can take a look at those.
Great. And Kevin, how do you guys at Macomb, what systems do you use to organize the project?
So again, kind of the same as the rest of the team. I mean, we typically use email and obviously our PCs. We also have embedded all of our transfer agreements and articulation agreements in our DataTel system. So as an Aleutian college, we have it already embedded, and we can pull that down when needed. We also have a curriculum warehouse, and then we do an internal mechanism study every 2 years of our direct equivalency transfer, or our transfer equivalency tables, I should say. So we have that to our top destination schools. And then, the one thing that we've tried to work with, and it was very glitchy up front, was Microsoft Teams. But we are now moving most likely back to that if we can for future phases, because it tends to work very well for us. But currently, we stepped out of that arena just because it wasn't as effective as we had hoped initially when we flipped the switch. But now it's been enhanced both from Microsoft and from our support. So we're going to look at that and move in that direction most likely in the future.
Great. Matt, Z, do you have anything to add?
No, pretty much all the same. A lot of emailing, going back and forth. For the most part, I just go with whatever the faculty are most comfortable doing. The nice thing is for some of the subject matters, it's been fairly simple to just say this is where we're at and send an email, this is what we have left to do, go from there. And then others do get a more in-depth spreadsheet of what we're still trying to work on, but pretty much what everyone else has said.
All right. Well, Matt, how do you manage to complete all of the tasks, like uploading the worksheets, sharing syllabi on Canvas, and communicating with the other institutions?
I bug people a lot. The biggest thing I do is make sure to always send myself calendar reminders, because I don't want to bug people too often. Like I try to give, 1 to 2 week response time, depending on what I'm trying to request. The nice thing so far has been, if something hasn't been on Canvas, I've felt very comfortable contacting the other liaisons to get the syllabus that I've needed, and I'm pretty sure I've had 100% success rate on that, and a quick success rate. It hasn't been, weeks later, and obviously if it has been, maybe there was a reason someone was out, but it's always been great. You can tell there's a certain camaraderie about, okay, you're requesting a syllabus because we know you're going to try and get a better equivalency for us, so yeah, here you go. Good luck with it and everything. So yeah, that's pretty much kind of what I'd say for that. I kind of lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, but how I've been completing tasks. Yeah, it's been a lot of emailing and staying on top of things. The best thing you can do is try to get organized. Sometimes I'm not always the most organized person, so I'll all of a sudden realize like, oh, I haven't emailed someone in a couple of weeks. Let me get on that, and then we're right back on track. But otherwise, yeah, it's a lot of email. Like I said earlier, we're the project manager, so we have to make sure everyone else stays on task.
Right. Yeah, it's a big project. Emily, did you want to comment on how you managed to complete all of these tasks?
I do. I keep the deadlines on my calendar, and I just kind of follow up with faculty if I haven't heard. A lot of my faculty have been really good about sending me their sheets, asking questions. Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? So I know kind of where they're at, and I've made some suggestions as well. I found that they're like, oh yeah, I like those suggestions, because I am more immersed in this, and so they like that I give that feedback. So it really has been a matter of just working together. I've had some meetings with them, but for the most part, I just send them a reminder. I just sent them a reminder today. Don't forget December 1st. You have to have those phase 1 worksheets done. And a couple weeks ago, sent them a reminder, or information about the stipend and that type of thing, just to keep on track with them, make sure they're on track. So that's what I've been doing.
Okay, thanks, Emily. How about you, Evan? How do you manage to complete all the tasks?
So I think I benefit from being at a pretty transfer-friendly institution. So this is especially true for phase 1. A lot of the courses for the pathway we already had, existing equivalencies already set up. So there hasn't been a ton of work in that area for us. So that's been helpful. I'm sure there will be for some of the other pathways. But in terms of getting the worksheets done, what has been helpful for us is I did sort of the initial draft of each of the worksheets, and I know that's probably not a possibility for a lot of the liaisons, but just with my role here and being comfortable with many of the programs that are involved in this project, I felt that I could kind of put together the initial draft, and then we kind of went back and forth with department heads to finalize the worksheets.
Great. Okay. How about you, Madden? How do you manage to complete all the tasks?
Well, I think that's a good transition from what Evan just mentioned about I guess, maybe taking initiative to complete a draft of the worksheet and then send it out to the faculty liaisons, faculty representatives, and say, how does this look? Does this look all right? Then I do offer to upload it to the Canvas site as well. And same thing with the syllabi. If I have the syllabi, ensure that it's the most up-to-date one. Certainly can update it to the Canvas site as well, along with a message of a link to what we have as another system that I failed to mention last time is our GRCC curriculum database. So course document very much like a syllabus showing the outcomes, the outline, just so folks have kind of maybe two different things that really corroborate themselves actually to look at equivalencies in that way. Then I think a good time to further that communication and I guess ask for the work to be done on the worksheets and on the equivalencies and things of that nature are when the MiTransfer pathway staff send out an email to the representatives to even kind of forward that message and say, hey, did you by chance see this? And don't forget, like Emily was saying, the worksheets are due on December 1st, or it just is a good opportunity to do that.
Great. How about you, Kevin?
Yeah, for the most part, where curriculum's involved, I usually count on the faculty to upload what is needed in relation to worksheets. From the syllabi perspective, some of my faculty are, moving pretty fast, so either they've done it or I typically will upload syllabi. And then, any other office miscellaneous stuff that we may put together, like typically I try to put together for my faculty a binder going into each phase, and that consists of our previous articulation agreements and transfer guides that have been ones that have been tried and true or are very generous, or ones that have just worked pretty efficiently over the past several years or even recently. And then I put in other components to that, whether it be materials from the MiTransfer website or from our internal mechanisms. Again, whether it be our data tell guides, whether it be our transfer equivalencies, etc. So I'm very fortunate to have a phenomenal team that can help with that. But typically it's delegated amongst a couple of us to put together those items. But when it comes to the curriculum and the worksheet, I'm looking at the faculty to put those in.
Great. Okay. So let's get started on the final set of questions that I have for the liaisons. And Emily, we'll start with you. What obstacles have you encountered during the project? And then second, what advice do you have for the other liaisons?
Well, one obstacle for us is right about the same time the MTA was approved is the same time that we just updated our general education for our AA and AS degrees. So, you know, and we really followed macro in those. So there was 8 credits, social science, 8 humanities, 8 natural science, and associates with art. So we still are under that for our gen ed. So it's not an MTA. So that's kind of a little bit of a glitch. We've had to figure out how, especially with our humanities courses all being mostly being 3 credit. You know, right now with our gen ed, they usually take 3 courses or 9 credits. And so we had to put 1 extra course into the elective area just because that's a requirement. In the other areas, they can use, like, you know, MTA. So we kind of, that was a little bit of an obstacle for us. And then we had a faculty who were not in the initial
Thank you, Lauren.
Meeting 1, but they were at meeting. They came to meeting 2, so we had to. I kind of had to help them get up to date a little bit more because they weren't at that. But that wasn't a great obstacle. It was just something as my role that I was able to roll with and make happen. As far as advice for other liaisons, if you're not the liaison, if you're not the transfer person at your organization, because I know a lot of liaisons are have a different role at the organization, I just think it's really important to make sure that that person is informed of what's happening, because they need to know, you know, they can probably give you some good advice as well because it's something that they deal with all the time. So I just think it's really important to make sure that the transfer person, the coordinator, whoever, if they're not your organization liaison, that they are informed of what's happening. And also, I just think it's important to present this as an opportunity for the potential students that these are going to be articulation agreements. We've had some people that are a little bit worried that it was going to replace their program. It's like, no, this is for that student that, you know, wants to go to a specific university. This gives them a transfer agreement that they can follow. And just, I think, keeping it positive with the faculty has been helpful and keeping them participating.
Thanks, Emily. How about you, Evan? What obstacles have you encountered during the project, and what advice do you have for the other liaisons?
Right. Thanks, Colleen. I think for me personally, not being as familiar with transfer work, it's been kind of a steep learning curve to learn, you know, the ins and outs of this work. But I think as you know, sort of a project team and working on this project, I think the biggest kind of obstacle is not knowing what that end result is. That this is brand new that we're all working on, and so you know, the liaisons and the faculty, we're all kind of going in this together. So if, you know, the faculty ask me a question, you know, I may not know the answer yet, and so that I think poses a challenge at times, but just kind of keep working through it. Regarding you know, what advice, I'm not sure I have you know, any more advice than anyone else. You know, we've all sort of been working on this at the same time. You know, one thing I think is important to remember is that we all work for unique institutions. They're going to come at this project from different perspectives. We all have our own kind of political environment at our own institutions, and so, you know, even listening to all the panelists today, you know, remember that you know, what works for one institution may not work for another, and you kind of just have to figure out what works for your institution.
Great, thanks, Evan. How about you, Matt? And could you comment on the obstacles that you've encountered and any advice you have for the other liaisons?
Yeah, thanks, Colleen. I think just the nature of this work and project and the volume that kind of comes with it. So many moving pieces when talking about the numerous one-to-one course equivalencies and all that entails, a lot of back and forth and keeping track and updating and just a lot of moving pieces, I guess. And that's, you know, as project manager, as Matt Z said, certainly that those are obstacles, expected obstacles, though, in some sense. And also really, and maybe this is a little bit further down the line, but trying to think about how it fits institutionally and how to communicate it at our institution, GRCC, and how it fits into our curriculum structure, et cetera. So I think those are some obstacles that I can think of initially. And then advice for moving forward for liaisons. Well, certainly, I myself would like to continue with and even build upon the in-person meetings. We've had a couple with our phase one right now, but the more that I've done, the more I see that it's important to do. And we have a wonderful website that's dedicated to this project, and the supplementary emails that come from the MiTransfer pathway staff. All of that's good information. I think rightly all of the information that's included in the website and in the emails, that's all the information folks need to know. It's just I guess showing that too, having an opportunity to meet in person, face to face, and showing, well, this is where you can see the recap webinar if you missed something at one of the summits, and this is where the pre-populated worksheets are and the equivalencies and how you can communicate with other liaisons and things like that. So getting all that information, via an email or like knowing the website, the link to the website, that's one thing. Another thing is to actually, show and, project it and talk about it. And obviously many good things just come from face-to-face interpersonal communication. Also, anything that any of the panelists said, I know Evan mentioned, certainly each institution is unique, but what's been mentioned, boy, I've been taking notes from the other panelists as this has been going on. So a lot of the good things to think about.
Great, thanks, Matt. Kevin, how about you? What type of obstacles have you encountered, and what advice do you have for the other liaisons?
I mean, nothing that I've encountered is any different than anybody else's for the most part. You just want to be able to communicate the project to area outsiders, people outside the circle that are actually participating. You want to make sure that you're updating everybody that is in strategic influential roles and stakeholders at your college. As long as you're updating them, and that can be by an email after a phase, can be in a typical staff meeting or group meeting or level meeting or unit meeting. As long as you're doing that, people see you as a resource. So those that are outside the project and the scope can also ask you questions if they're curious. And so those would probably be the biggest points that I would give.
Great. Okay. How about you, Matt Z?
The biggest obstacle probably has just been, I'd say maybe certain faculty areas really buying into the project. Some have been absolutely wonderful to work with. Have really taken upon themselves to see how they can make changes and really turn an eye to transfer. I know a big thing at OU has always been looking at things through a FIDIAC lens. And so even, as my team looks at our catalog, everything is based off of FIDIAC, and it's not very transfer friendly. And how can we start creating a more transfer friendly environment? So the biggest obstacle has been for some faculty who are still trying to, I'll say they're getting there, trying to get on board with everything and looking more in depth at their equivalencies and how their courses are taught, and if they are vastly different, what is so different about them? Why is everyone else teaching a course a certain way and we're the only ones teaching it totally different? So that's probably been the biggest obstacle. But my advice is, if you run into that like I have, you just got to keep at it. You got to bring in the right people. I mean, this is where I've been having constant conversations with our director of admissions, our registrar, our associate provost, associate deans, and deans to say, this is where we're at, and this is where we are at compared to everyone else. So you have to determine where exactly you want to be in the whole transfer scheme. And then I kind of let some of those higher ups make the decisions of where we need to go, and then I just kind of work and follow through with that. So that'd probably be the biggest obstacle that I have, as well as some of the advice I have if you happen to run into something similar.
Great, thanks, Matt. So we're going to move forward. I want to thank you all panelists for joining us and providing some great advice for the other liaisons. It's a great team. It was really nice to meet with other liaisons at the second transfer pathways program. Everyone's working really hard. I know this is a lot of additional work, so hopefully these tips will help the process for each individual at their individual institutions move this project forward successfully. So moving forward, we're going to be talking about then some of the resources that we have available to you. I'm going to turn it over to Erica to talk about what resources are available to support you as a liaison.
Great, thank you, Colleen. Many of these resources, if you're a transfer liaison, you've received messages from some folks on the project team providing you with links to these resources, but I just wanted to go through them very quickly at the end of our webinar. I'd also like to thank Colleen and Matt and all of the transfer liaisons that shared their thoughts today. I know from the project staff, we are thrilled that you're involved in this and are really shepherding this work through on your campus. We recognize the very big role you play in getting this work to move forward, and I don't think we could do this without you. So thank you very much for that. So the first resource I want to talk with you about is the current Michigan Transfer Network. So one of the priorities in this project was to ensure that the courses that we selected as those MiTransfer pathway courses would be direct equivalents in the Michigan Transfer Network to the extent that that is possible. And so we are still currently using the Michigan Transfer Network, which is michigantransfernetwork.org. michigantransfernetwork.org. And that's where you should be uploading your equivalencies. And you can see here that you can view the equivalencies from, in this example, that credit that's accepted by Eastern Michigan University from Macomb Community College. So as you are working with your faculty and reviewing those syllabi, we ask that you're uploading that data to the Michigan Transfer Network. I will also, I know some of you mentioned, and we are feeling the same way, that sometimes it's hard to see what the end goal of this looks like. And in some ways, when we started this process, we knew what we were trying to get to, but we also knew that that would need to be adjusted based on what our experience was in this process. But we are now much closer to understanding what that end goal looks like. And one of the other projects that we're doing along with these MiTransfer pathways is replacing the Michigan Transfer Network. And so if you navigate out to dev.mytransfer.org, you will be able to see the development site for the new MTN. So this is the site where we are developing the new MTN, and you'll see a tab on there for the MiTransfer pathways. This isn't exactly what that site will look like. We still have a significant amount of user testing to do before we finalize what the site will look like. But for those of you who are familiar with the Michigan Transfer Agreement, the vision for this, the way we will communicate this to students is very similar to how you communicate that to the MTA. All of our institutions engaged in a statewide agreement around the MTA, and then each community college and each university maintains information for students about how the MTA, what courses they can take at the community college and how that's applied at the university. This will be very similar. We'll use that similar model for these MiTransfer pathways as well. So I will put that web link that I just said in the chat as soon as I'm done talking, and then you'll be able to have that link in case you weren't able to hear it when I said it's dev.mytransfer.org. All right, we can keep going. The other website that we've been maintaining is mytransfer.net, which so when we went out and bought the MiTransfer name, we just went ahead and bought .org and .net, and we are using .org for what will eventually be the Michigan Transfer Network replacement, and we are using this site to be able to communicate information to you. We consistently keep this updated here with information. And this is a great place for you to go to be able to download those worksheets, to be able to review any of the information that we shared, especially if you have the opportunity, like many of the liaisons said, to present this information to folks on your campus. I think it's very nice to be able to show them this site, because we're trying to drive people here to be able to get the information they need. So we would encourage you to use this site as well. Colleen, can you move it forward? There we go. The last resource that we have available to you is a Canvas site that we created. And so Canvas is, as many of you know, a learning management system. And they actually make available a free site that's just at canvas.instructure.com. And at the request of some of the folks that have been leaders, have been guiding us through this process, we really needed a place to share information with each other. So that's when we decided to load everybody or give everybody access to this Canvas site. On this site, there's really a couple things that we want you to do. One is to upload your syllabi for the courses that we've identified as the faculty have identified as the MiTransfer Pathways courses. This is an easier way for community colleges to share their syllabi with a bunch of universities, and for universities to be able to gather those syllabi from so many different community colleges. And so we're asking that everyone that's participating in this project upload their syllabi. Both community colleges and universities have the ability to upload here. We have heard feedback from folks that this actually is a very valuable tool for them, even just to review the content of their courses, even if their course is already equivalent. It's very nice for faculty even to be able to see what learning outcomes are included in other syllabi as well. The other very important thing that is on this site is the ability for you to upload those worksheets. And for those of you who have been involved in the phase 1 pathway, you know that we have been modifying and editing those worksheets as we've gone on, as the process has project has continued. And we've just been tweaking the process as we go along. But one very important date on December 1st, which happens to be this Saturday, we are asking you to submit your final worksheet for each of the first 4 pathways. And when you log into this site, on the discussions tab, you will see a discussion for final phase 1 pathways. And we're asking you to upload those by Saturday. We will be reviewing those next week and reaching out to all of the institutions that have participated to confirm we have your worksheet, or if we don't have your worksheet, we'll want to ask you if you're planning on submitting that. We'll give you a little bit of extra time to submit that. But if you could get that submitted by December 1st, that would be terrific. After December 1st, we will be reviewing those worksheets in December and January to make sure that we have what we need on those. As Matt Zeig said at the beginning of the webinar, we are also pulling together a group of people who are drafting an articulation agreement. As many of you have said, this is kind of the first of its kind, this type of project, this multi-institutional transfer agreement. And so we have a lot of people from colleges and universities participating in the review of that information. And as Matt said, we have an articulation agreement signing ceremony scheduled in Lansing on May 9th of 2019. Is there another slide after that, Colleen, or am I throwing it back to you?
Nope, we're just going to turn it over to questions now. And Erica, if you see any questions in the group, if you could let us know, we could direct them for folks to answer.
Great. I do not see any questions right now, but if anybody has any questions, please enter those in the question pane. While we're waiting around for the questions, I'm going to go ahead, Colleen, and since we have a couple of minutes left here at the end, I am going to take over being a presenter again. And I'm going to go out to that dev site that I mentioned.
Great.
It's dev.mitransfer.org. Click enter, and this is where you'll see the development site that we are creating. Anybody can go out on this site and view information. We will include information as the current MTN does about course equivalencies, but as you can see, there will be a lot more information on here as well. This is like continuously being updated. So please note that some of these things will change, but given that you're the transfer liaison, we just recently updated some of the MiTransfer pathways information. And so this is the kind of page that students would see, and they would go in here, and here is an example of our first 4 pathways. If I click on biology, right now we have 3 institutions in there that would, for example, be participating in the biology transfer pathway. If I click on Grand Rapids Community College, I've put fake information in there, but GRCC, just like they do now with the MTA, Grand Rapids linked their MTA information through their catalog. And so this may be where GRCC would put information about the biology transfer pathway for their students. So this gives you hopefully a better idea of what the end product of this would look like. I'm really excited that we are hosting another webinar next week on Wednesday, December 5th from 3 to 4 o'clock. So it's the exact same time next week, that we will be talking about the new MTN website, and we'll be doing a live demonstration of the student-facing site and also some of the behind-the-scenes information that those of you who may be reporting data or updating this information for your institution would be able to see. If you would like to register for that, you can go out to mitransfer.net and go on the events tab and register for that. And I know Colleen also sent that out over the macro listserv as well. So that's on December 5th. Lastly, we've talked a lot about the phase 1 pathways, but as many of you have said, we still have 2 pathways to go. And you should have received a message from some of the project staff asking you to complete a survey by December 15th, telling us what your course department and number is for your phase 2 MiTransfer Pathways courses. So the deadline that we're asking for that is December 15th. And we did not ask that from you in the phase 1 pathways, but we found that it was really challenging to figure out what your department and course numbers were for some of these phase 1 pathways. So that's new in the phase 2. So we're asking you to do that. It's through a SurveyMonkey, and you should have received a message from one of us on the project staff asking you to do that. Actually, I think you received that message from Katie a couple of weeks ago with a link to a SurveyMonkey to complete that. So if you're planning on participating in any of the phase 2 pathways, please go ahead and complete that survey. If we don't hear from you by December 15th, we will be following up with you on that. So I still don't see any questions, and I have successfully talked for 5 minutes so that you could have some time to go in to enter your questions in there. But seeing no questions, I'll turn it back over to Colleen and Matt to finish up.
Great, thanks, Erica. I appreciate it. So we really enjoyed talking to you today through this webinar platform. Our information is on the last slide. If Erica shrinks her screen for a second, you can absolutely reach out to Macro, to Matt Zeig or I, or any one of the panelists if you have more questions for them. And then if you have questions about the Transfer Pathways project, you want to contact your sector representative, so either the MCCA, MASU, or MICU. Their information is going to be on the very last slide that we had shown. But once again, thank you. Matt, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Nope. I hope everyone enjoyed the webinar. And again, any questions, feel free to ask us and keep the conversation going. That's the best way to get all these equivalencies and make this a really good project.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Great. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.